The Midnight Man. What's that, you might ask? Is it a man that travels at midnight? Is it a new superhero? No, you know what it is? It's an alternate name for Batman. Nah, just kidding. The Midnight Man is a creepypasta story that's very bizarre. Alright, here's the gist. It starts off with our main character, who, much like in a lot of creepypasta stories, is nameless. He's talking about how he's at a loss for words when it comes to a creature that he apparently found. He's afraid that if he tries to tell anyone, he'll be admitted into a mental institute. That's some pretty heavy stuff, and it's a great way to start off a story. Then he starts at the beginning. By that I mean his first encounter with it, as he calls it. And no, I'm not talking about the book by Stephen King, which is also a movie. He starts off by talking about how his family and him were forced to move because their house was being foreclosed. Well, everything's all good at first until one day he goes for a walk. He starts to notice that he's the only one on the walking track, and that's a bit weird since it was so big and so nice. He goes into the woods and starts to play around a bit until he finds a small, dead rabbit. He goes to examine it and sees that its stomach and entrails have been completely ripped out. Paints a nice picture in your head, doesn't it? Well, actually, he notices something that seems very out of place. There's no bite marks or claw marks on it. Come to think of it, that would be pretty weird. Think about it. Animals like wolves, bears, tigers, and so on, they use their teeth and claws to kill and eat other animals. Wouldn't it be a bit strange if you found a dead animal and it didn't have any bite marks or claw marks, and there's no bullet wounds, so it couldn't have been hunted? I don't know, but I would think that's pretty weird too. This is our first major clue that something is really wrong here. He goes back home and just acts like nothing happened. The next morning, he hears his mom and sister talking about something on the deck downstairs. When he asks what's going on, she tells him that an animal left its food on their porch. You want to know what it is? Brace yourself. It's gross. Okay, here we go. Under their porch was a pile of animal entrails. I can't imagine ever waking up to something like that. I don't think I want to, actually. Next thing, the main character is having a nightmare where he's in the forest, naked, and sees a figure in the darkness. My guess is that it's the image on the screen right now. He describes it as a 7-foot tall, deer-like figure, but it walks like a man. You think that's weird? Listen to what it tells him.
Its trail. You think that you are of a higher importance than a rabbit. That you are greater. The earth will die and all will cry. Bring the tears of the unfaithful, the untrustworthy, and the cynical men and women to me. They don't know me by an image, but by their undying faith. Maybe they should have listened to the crazy man on the street. Maybe they should have listened to the one who tried to convince them that it was no myth, or of what they all saw was indeed true flesh and fact. You know, my son, that little thing that just catches your curious eye, that little unnatural feeling that makes you feel out of place, that something is wrong, that physical feeling when you feel something touch you, but you debunk it as just your mind. That is me. the Midnight Man.
Wow. Well, after he gives this speech, he approaches the main character and then pokes his stomach. He wakes up and sees blood in his bed, as if he was actually stabbed. Okay, so apparently the Midnight Man is like Freddy Krueger. You know, come to think of it, in that audio of the speech that he gave, the Midnight Man kinda sounds like Freddy. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? The last few things said are that he goes through a lot of changes. His grades start to drop and he becomes very paranoid. All this over a dream. That's some pretty powerful shit. When I said this story was bizarre, I meant it. I do like the dark tone that it has, and that monologue from the Midnight Man is pretty disturbing. One minor complaint I have is the name of the monster. The Midnight Man. That doesn't sound very scary, at least in my opinion, especially when it looks like a centaur with deer antlers. Of course, a centaur is a half human and half horse, but you get the point. It makes me think of Space Godzilla. Awesome looking monster, not such an awesome name. You know what else the Midnight Man makes me think of? Motaro from Mortal Kombat. Yeah, in fact, he strikes a very close resemblance, in both looks and characteristics. Wow, I just compared a Mortal Kombat character with a character in a creepypasta story. That's awesome. I'll admit, when I first heard this story, I didn't really like it. I don't really know why, I just didn't really enjoy it and I found it very boring. But after hearing it again, I've come to appreciate it. It's a good story that may have its flaws depending on what you like, but I recommend it if you're in the mood for a good, decent scare.